Yo, let's do a quick evening video here. All right, the markets there's blood in the streets, right? There's blood in the streets. It's everywhere. Bitcoin down 4%, and then you got some alts that are just bleeding out like crazy. You got Cockinu 23% down, Cake 12% down, Floki 20% down, Memes bleeding, Helium 12%, 7% Injective. Everything's bleeding out more than Bitcoin, near 10%. Pepe 17%. It's bananas out there. Let me tell you something. Bitcoin, and people get a bit too gassed. Bitcoin is like a sun. Yeah, Bitcoin is the sun. All right. All of these coins live within its shadow. They all do. All these Solanas, all of these Cardanos and Pepes and Flokis, they're like planets or little moons, and sometimes they're shooting stars, and they go off and do their own thing. But you see, when Bitcoin bleeds, it pulls all of that shit back in. It pulls it. It's a big gravity well. When Bitcoin starts to bleed, they all get reined the fuck in. Yeah? When it bleeds, they bleed hard. Bitcoin will bring it back in. They're not too big for Bitcoin. All cryptocurrencies live inside of Bitcoin. Okay? Bitcoin is the universe. It is the sun, the crypto universe. All right? So that's why straight away when I look at the market, I go to Bitcoin straight away. Bitcoin is the proxy. If Bitcoin is not doing shit, or it's bleeding hard enough, it will rein them in, and there's no point in looking at them. I look at Bitcoin first. Okay, don't get me wrong. When Bitcoin's pumping and we're moving sideways, once it's made its pump and then it moves sideways, other alts will pump to catch up with it. Okay, other alts will pump. But if it has a bleed, a big enough bleed, and it bleeds for long enough, it will take everything with it. Yeah? Alright, cool. So that's why I'm looking at Bitcoin now. So let's start with Bitcoin. So this is something that I was tracking. I didn't see many people tracking this rising wedge, but I saw it as a rising wedge, and I didn't see many people talking about it. So I thought this was kind of wrong, but I kept it on my charts regardless. And there it is. So rising wedge, and these typically go down to these typically break downwards. When I see rising wedges, I always pay attention, especially if you're getting bearish RSI divergence on the weekly and the daily and all that stuff. All right, drop down, came out, hit my trend line here. Okay, that red trend line there. All right, it doesn't look that accurate here on the hourly chart, but I've got this red trend line in place. All right, let's get my arrow. I've got this red trend line in place. That's because on the daily, it conforms. So I know it doesn't look that great right now. Okay, doesn't look like it's being respected, but it is. Trust me, it is. That's why it's there. All right, I'm just looking at it on the hourly chart. Okay, cool. What Bitcoin did, came up in a rising channel, broke down, retested the underside, and that was the entry for a short. I tried to get in a short on Phantom, and I put a limit order on, but I didn't get in time. It just dropped. Phantom just dropped, so I couldn't get in. But that's just the way it goes. Trend line didn't give it as much support as I wanted to. Apologies for that. Yeah, it hit the red line here, bounced up underside of the rising triangle, and we came back down to this red line here. 618 rejected at the 618. That's a big sign that we're going down. 50% right here, and we're going down. Okay, all right, so that's the hourly chart. If I flip it to the 6 hourly chart, all right, remember it's more accurate if we zoom out a little bit. So I was on the hourly, now on the 6 hourly. Let's look at it now. All right, it looks less messy, doesn't it? Cool. We need to hold this on the 6 hourly chart. We want to hold 66.8k. We don't want to start closing underneath this, because if we're closing underneath this, Bitcoin is showing weakness. It's showing there's not enough buyers coming in here. There's not enough liquidity coming in here to bounce it back up. All right. So we want to, for the bulls, that's what they want. Bears, they want this to drop. They want to see these closes underneath here. You want to see closes underneath here. All right. So if we start to see closes underneath here on the 6 hourly chart, it's very likely we're going to come down to the 50% level here. Okay, where's the 50% level from? Let me go into my daily chart. There it is, 61.9k. Let's round it off to 62k, and then you got the 618 at 59k. All right, and that's off of this swing here. All right, that's off of this recent swing that it made here. All right, now keep in mind, look at this. This is the daily. What I was showing you was the 6 hourly and the 1 hour. Okay, and some people are losing their minds. Keep in mind that all of this that's happened, look at it in the context of the weekly chart. You barely even see it, what I've got there. in comparison to like what it's done. You barely even see it. That's up here. That's a little part of where Bitcoin could drop to, and trust me, like Bitcoin could, it could do a 50% move. It could do a 50% drop, and it will take time to play out. It will take time to play out. But this swing, we haven't had a break in this swing at all. We've just gone up for like 6-7 months. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I have to bring up I have to back up my fibs. I have to. You have to have this in the back of your head that we could drop to like 50k or 48k. We could still test this this swing high up here. We can still test it. 48k. It's completely reasonable to test that. Okay. It's completely reasonable to test this here, and it will be back testing it here as support. That would be really healthy if we was to do that. Now, alts will bleed like crazy if that happens. Alts will bleed like crazy, but it's a great opportunity. That's a great opportunity. Not telling you to sell. I don't know what situation you're in. I don't know what kind of situation you're in, right? Like, if you've been buying up here and stuff like that, then it depends what you're in and what your time frame is. But, you know, yeah, it's going to depend on what your time frame was. All right, before I go into a couple of alts and stuff like that, like, you got to remember, just like, for me, it's not, and sorry to say this, but when I'm buying Bitcoin down here, nobody wants to buy Bitcoin down here. When we were all up here, it was at 60k, 64k. A lot of the people I was around, they was all talking about, if Bitcoin goes back down, if it gets to 30k, I'm going to buy it. I'll take out a loan, whatever I have to do. All of them said that. Do you know how many people took out a loan and bought Bitcoin, or took out their savings and bought Bitcoin at 30k? Nobody did. Nobody did. They didn't do it. Nobody did it. But now it's at all these all-time high prices. Everybody wants to buy crypto and is asking about Bitcoin as well. So you need to put you need to have the macro time frame as well. All right, cool. Let's have a look at some of these alts. Okay, cool. Let's start with some altcoins. Let's just dive into NEAR straight away. This is NEAR versus ETH. Now, the reason why I am looking at NEAR is because I've got it on my radar. The reason why is because I was looking at it as a inverse head and shoulders for Ethereum and swapping out my Ethereum for NEAR. That's one of the tokens I was looking at. Yeah, cool. Let's zoom into the 6 hour. So we're doing the same thing what we did with Bitcoin. Yeah, that was my price target up here, the green line here. Okay, cool. So we're coming back down to test. We're coming back down to test my green line here, which was the neck of the inverse head and shoulders. Let's back out our fibs. And this is kind of probably a bit more specific to me because I traded in my ETH for NEAR, some of my ETH for NEAR. So yeah, we're approaching the 618, right? You can see where it is. It's getting rejected at this 50%, which isn't good. It isn't good, but you know me, I like to layer in my bets. So my next area of support will be here, and then my last area of support will be here, the 50%. And I'll consider my position if we don't hold this 50% in 618, that's my next entry, and the 50% will be my next entry. If we start coming down below that, then you know I'm going to reconsider my position, and it invalidates my theory. Okay, so that's the idea there. That's NEAR versus ETH. I'm going to go into NEAR USDT and let's see what we can see. Go into NEAR. I'm just going to do this on the fly, quick time. So here's what I was looking. So this is going to look a bit confusing. Let me remove all my indicators. All right. So 6 hour NEAR was doing the same thing. This is why I was looking at Bitcoin first. All right. It's not as prominent as Bitcoin because alts was doing good stuff, right? But I still saw a rising wedge pattern. But NEAR broke out here. It broke out. Came back into the triangle. That's a bad signal when it comes back in, but it still pumped back out. But look, it didn't have one candle close outside. It got pushed right back outside of the rising wedge. That's bearish. That's hella bearish, and we're coming back out of it now. And that's fine. We need that, right? It's healthy. But this is why I was looking at Bitcoin first. Why I only need to look at Bitcoin first. All right. People get gassed. It brings in the last couple of people in before the profits get taken. So that's just the way it goes. So that's my plan for NEAR. What else am I looking at? Solana. I mean, I'm not really worried about Solana. I've been buying Solana at $12. And I've been buying some a bit later on, but you know, Solana has been holding up really well. But let's have a look at it. So let's get again. Let's remove my RSI for now, and let's rid of my volume just for now and do a quick Let's just eyeball it. So 6 hour looks messy. Let's go to the daily. So look at this swing here. So we got the swing low here at $98. Let's back out our fibs on that. We have gotten above our all-time high to bear market low 618 here. So Solana's doing great, to be honest with you. It's got room to come right back down to this 50% level here. It's major 50% at 138, and it's calm. It's so calm. I'm not worried about this at all. But if you are, you know, you want to tag, you want to start loading up on Solana, 148 is a good place to purchase if you can get it there. 148 is a good place to purchase. Also the 50%, as I mentioned, where is this? This is about $135. And then you've got the weekly swing here around 118. So you've got a bag of support. Solana's got a bag of support there. So put your entries around there. All right, Pepe, what's Pepe doing? Everyone talk about Pepe, 18% down. All right, cool. Let's move on to the 6 hour. So I did have I had a trend line here. Looks like let me take it off automatic because it's not. So I did have a trend line here. Once again, let me remove my indicators, try and clean it up a little bit. So it was a messy trend line that I had here, but this thing was going parabolic. I find it very difficult to sort of keep track of meme tokens because they're very irrational. But what do? We came up, retested this, flat for support, retested again the resistance, backtest the trend line, pushed through, retest, and we broke this trend line. This green trend line here, we broke it. Okay, that was your first signal that something wasn't right. That break there. Okay, what did we do? We came up and retested it as resistance. Still, this trend line's getting respect to the support, and then the final push up was this one here, got rejected, and we fell through. So let's see where it gets to. All right, so your targets. Where's your targets? It's down here. All of these zeros, 6, 8. So I'm not gonna even. I don't know how many zeros that is. A couple zeros, 6, 8, and then you've got a bigger target down here. All right, down here at 2976. So if you're long and you want to bet long on that's where you want to put it. All right, that's where you can put it. That's Pepe. What else is going on? What else do people talk about a lot? See so much. Render 9%. Render's been doing great though. Render has been doing great. I haven't looked at it since it broke out here, and actually this is an ascending triangle. These typically break up to the upside. I think it's got a 57%, so it's not that great. It's not as reliable for me as the rising wedges. You know, rising wedges, they very often break down, okay? But ascending triangles, they're almost 50-50, okay? They're almost 50-50. It's hella bullish if it breaks out of the triangle and then comes back in. That is hella bullish. I usually treat those and go straight back in as hard as possible if I see that, because it usually shoots them up, and it did in this case. But there's just too much coins to keep track of, and if I did that, how much would I have caught? I would have caught, there was a potential 59, 60%. 10x leverage, that's 600%. All right, from where it is now, 26%. Cool. If you're looking at render, where could be a good place for support? All right, so your 50% is down here at $7. But a bit higher than that if we don't drop down. So he hasn't even come back to test this local 50%. All right, local 50% is $9.35. So keep track of that. All right, but remember, in this whole, if you zoom out on the weekly, look where that is in comparison to where we've come from. Look where that is. Okay, so be wary of that. Look at this. That's the reason why I had the 50% there. Actually, is because I actually preferred this. I wanted it to come back down and test this high here. Its previous all-time high in November 2021. So I don't have an alert here. I'm going to put an alert on this. Will it get that low? I don't know. But if Bitcoin bleeds, this will bleed and come to retest this. And I want to be aware of that. All right. I love entries like that. That's something I can look at. I'll come back to that. So that's render. I do like the idea of render. What else is happening? There's quite a few others. But I'm not going to go through all of them. Video's long enough already, but hopefully that gives you an idea of what's going on. ETH Bitcoin. What's ETH Bitcoin doing? You know, I've got a long play on this one. My 50% is around here. I believe the 50% is around here, and I bought some here. There was a 618 here, and then the trend line here from swapping my Bitcoin to ETH. All right, so that's what I was doing. Remember, my plan was to stagger in my bets of moving my Bitcoin to ETH and then moving my ETH to Solana. Okay, I've got a portfolio that's specifically round for that. Okay, but I have also been doing Solana. Sorry, not only ETH into Solana, but Solana into NEAR. Okay, I've been doing that. Okay, so I've been having more going into ETH and less going into Solana and NEAR from ETH when the opportunities present itself. Okay, I'm not all rushing into that. All right, that's a staggered buy right here. That's a staggered buy. Okay, more money, more of my Bitcoin will get transferred as we enter more prominent areas of support where it's more likely. This is a game of probability. It's more probable that more liquidity and the bulls will come out at this trend line than up here. Okay, but I'm already on a bit here. Maybe it pushes out, I don't know, but I'm just trying to put probability in my favor. So that's that. But everything versus Bitcoin at the moment isn't doing too great. Sol's doing good, Tron's doing good. This thing still stays in. It still stays up there, which is amazing to me. I was so surprised with BNB. I've been telling everybody, don't sleep on BNB. Everybody does, and nobody talks about it. And look what it's done. It's outperformed. Nobody was talking about it down here when CZ was getting seed and Binance, BNB got listed as a security, and we was doing all of that. This is a great pattern because this is all consolidation. This is a spring, and look at the spring pushed out. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. And you could have been staking BNB from back here in 2022. And that's, to be honest with you, that's what I was doing. I was staking BNB. Pushed out. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You got things like Gala. Plenty of room to go. I'll do that in another video. I'll do it in another video. Sorry, this is an evening one. So yeah, hopefully you find this useful though, yeah? Alright, cool. Catch up soon.